It's been a year since we made our documentary film about the Wandle, so I thought it was time to get my waders back on and get an update on the work being done to improve it. I've headed further downstream towards the Thames to meet Dr. Jack Hogan of the South East Rivers Trust and find out about the restoration projects that they've been working on.
You know, the old English name for this river is Cledeburnon, and the Middle English name is Lutborn. It means loud river, because it was steep and had a lot of water, and it would tear down the slope from the North Downs down towards the Thames.
So like rushing through, and
like
you
rushing
could hear,
through
yeah.
that kind of, and you can get a sense of an echo of that kind of ripple of the sound now. And that's why there were so many mills. You know, you could
right.
have 10
So that's
mills
what.
to the
So
mile.
what attracted industry to it was these unique features, and now that's ended up having an impact on its future as well.
You know, from the Romans milling on the lower river all the way through, we've moved this river around and we've harnessed it to our purposes.
Nowadays, the Wandle is often under pressure from water passing through.
You know, if you want, the Wandle is a hyper-dynamic river, particularly for a chalk
Is that
stream.
anything to do with its like urban status, or is it just something unique to this? Because you said about the high sediment and stuff. Is that because it's in an urban area?
Yeah, and you know, you've got a lot of road runoff there.
Yeah,
I mean, there are parks and gardens and other things around, but the reality is that in a natural system, you know, the whole catchment is kind of woodland, wetland, farmland, whatever that would be. That holds water. When it rains, that holds water back. Whereas here, we've just got concrete, tarmac.
Yeah.
When it rains here, within, as you know, 45 minutes, the river's rushed up. It acts like a spate river, like a mountain river, rather than a kind of natural chalk stream.
The South East Rivers Trust have been taking action to improve this section of the river.
We put these deflectors in, so now the river's going side to side. Feet now, you can feel it's gravels, right?
Yeah.
And they're quite loose, quite clean. Then you get this strip of sand. You know, it weighs less than the gravels, but more than the stuff's there. So the river's got a bit more power where it comes around the deflector here. So they get deposited here. And then where the stream's got no power at all, you get all of this really fine matter. You know, if you pick that up, it's silt, it's loose and slushy.
The changes are already making a difference.
Flat sheet.
And all this has come up in the last year or two?
So yeah, this is, you know, probably been, I think the first berm that he built is the one at the end there, and that was about 2 years ago. So all of this has been in that, you know, has happened in that time. You know,
because it feels completely different underfoot now, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally different underfoot. I mean, you can see there's a little bit of gravel here, just at the point of this deflector.
The pinch point,
yeah, that pinch point where you've got that energy, and you know, it's making a bit of a hole. But you can see, you know, it gives you some idea of just how kind of gutted the river was once. You know, you can see if I pick up the gravels here, you know, they're clean gravels. They haven't got all that silt and otherwise in it.
And that's the product of that.
Literally that point where that flow's coming round is doing this to the bed. So, I mean, you can put your toe in this, you can get your toe right down into it. You know, there's no sediment coming up, it's just gravel.
Old weirs left behind by industry also cause problems.
It's not, weirs don't just block fish, they also block sediment. And in natural systems, sediment gets transported, you know, from the headwaters down towards the sea. Right, but when you get those barriers in rivers, they stop that natural process, that natural movement. Quite often, weirs, you know, can have a negative impact for flood risk, not least because in an urban area, if you've got a structure holding loads of water up, you create flood risk all upstream of that weir in the immediate area around it. When the river gets high, it floods the parks, right? It's always done that. You know, you would think that if we could find a way to work with that space around the river to slow up that flow and make more space for water, that would be in a more secure position in terms of flood risk, and also more resilient in the face of climate change.
And what you've also showed today is you can recognise the difference between healthy bits and unhealthy bits. So even if we don't need to know what the original pathway of the river was, we can still create a pathway that's healthier for it today. Yeah.
Given all the damage that we've done, we'll never erase all that damage, Bobby. You know, that time is gone. We're talking thousands of years of modification. But we've got a much better understanding now than our ancestors about how natural process works, how rivers want to work.
It sounds like what you're saying, that with the right amount of work, there doesn't have to be a trade-off between the health of the river and what people want. We can actually make both work if we come up with the right natural solutions. You
know, 1 million people, something like that, live within the catchment of the Wandle, right? And it's their river as much as it is anyone else's. You know, the Wandle's wonderful, partly because it is a public river. Yeah, there's the idea that, you know, we've got to preserve the heritage of the river, but the heritage of the Wandle, if it's anything, is change.
So all the work you've done down here, we hope to do it a bit further upstream as well, down in the Wandle in Carshalton and Wallington as well. Can you tell me a bit about how we can replicate this sort of work?
Yeah, definitely. You know, we've had the work on the Wandle, so up at Butter Hill, one of the early restorations that SERT did, and then the later work at Hatbridge as well, which has also really transformed the river there. So, you know, there are opportunities all along, you know, parks and green spaces in and around the river to be doing this kind of work, to try and as far as possible make the Wandle a chalk stream again.
We've got loads of parks groups in Sutton actually. In fact, over the last year or so we've had so many more established. We've had a brilliant parks officer who's kind of got them established. So I feel like we should probably get some of our friends of parks groups together to think about the ones that are related to the Wandle, to think about what they would like to do with it as well.
Yeah, you know, and there's lots of opportunities for volunteering, either with those local community groups or with ourselves to do river cleanups. You know, we're going to be doing more work down here as well for some volunteers if people want to get in and actually install deflectors and get their hands dirty doing some nature restoration. You know, all in all, it's not just us, it's not just a national trust, it's not just you, right? It's got to be a community effort and a partnership effort. We all live in and around the river and care for it, so it's up to us to really turn out and do something for it too.
But let me just say, I always love chatting to you, Jack, because you always teach me new stuff every time I come along, and I hope to look forward to the next one as well.
Always love seeing you,
Cheers.
Bobby.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.